Hey, it's Dr. Sam Robbins. Have you ever had a problem getting an erection when you're about to have sex? Do you feel insecure about it? Do you worry or get anxious, which obviously makes it even more difficult for you to get an erection? Has it caused you to not even want to have sex or initiate sex or even get in a relationship because of this erectile problem? And also, do you consider yourself to be a nice guy? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then keep watching this video because I'm going to talk about one of the hidden causes of erectile problems that most guys don't want to talk about. Most people don't even really want to admit to, but more on that in a minute. Because first, I want to talk about there's three types of erections. First, I want to just give some clarity. There's the reflexive one that's associated with like physical stimulation, right? There is the psychogenic, as it's called, and that's from, visual, mental images in your head. And then there's the nocturnal one that typically occurs when you're sleeping. Now, most of us know about the morning wood, right? When you wake up with an erection. And if you don't get one of these morning erections, then you probably have low testosterone and poor blood flow. So that's the nocturnal kind, the morning erections. Granted, you do get these nocturnal erections in the middle of the night. You just don't realize it. But the morning wood is one most guys know about. Now, the next obvious type of erection is the physical touch, right? And again, if you aren't able to get or maintain an erection with physical touch, this is primarily due to hormonal imbalances, such as, for example, low testosterone and or high estrogen. But what if you can't get an erection when you're trying to have sex, but you don't have a problem getting an erection when you masturbate? Now, this form of erectile dysfunction is more related to psychological reasons and thus psychological impotence. So that's what today I'm going to talk about, psychological impotence. Now, this would include any type of stress or anxiety or depression or guilt or low self-esteem or maybe problems you're having in your relationship with someone. Now, what I'm going to focus on today is your mind, and which is super powerful and at causing erections and having orgasms. They say, the biggest organ, sexual organ, is your brain. So keep that in mind. Now, before I start, know that you need to optimize your testosterone levels and your hormones because that will also impact your mindset because of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, in addition to physical causes. And I'll share with you the best testosterone optimizing tactics at the end of this video. But first, I'm going to share a personal story. So years ago, I saw this girl. I was like super attracted to her, and I didn't have the balls to go ask her out at a party. But then a few months later, I ran into her again, and I got the nerve to ask her out, and talking to her and all that. And I really, really liked her. Not only was she like super hot, she was a model actress and all that junk that I cared about when I was younger, but we also just connected. We would talk every day for an hour or two and all that stuff. And so eventually, when it came time to have sex, and I took my time, it was like a couple months went by and all that stuff because I wanted to do it right, be a nice guy about it. I couldn't get an erection. And I was like horrified. I was like super down about myself. And she wasn't very cool about it because she was young and obviously, never dealt with guys like that. I was 10 years older than her. And I remember just vividly about like the more I thought about it, the worse it got. And then I would stress out even more. And then she would say something like, hey, what's wrong? Or is it me? Or this stuff, which then made it worse. And then eventually I just gave up. And I remember, again, she was very cold about it, which made things even worse on me. She wasn't empathetic. She didn't say, oh, it's okay. I remember driving home that night and I was like crying in the car. I'm like, what's going on with me? And I finally get this girl that I really want. This hasn't happened in the past. And anyhow, I even got her a card to say, I'm sorry, blah, 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 just like a typical nice guy. So the next time, anyhow, long story short, we went at it again another time. And this time I came fully prepared, all right? I took the Cialis, half a Cialis and half a Viagra because I wanted to make sure that I was going to perform no matter what. And, we're fooling around and doing all that stuff. It's erect, it's ready to go. And when when it came down to it, again, couldn't get hard. So now my heart rate's going. I'm like freaking out again. And she's like, oh, this again? And oh, that just made things way worse. And then she's like, oh, I told my mom last time that this happened. And she's like, if a guy can't get it up, you can't, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all this crap is going through my head. And I'll tell you exactly why it happened. So when I first met her, she would tell me how, previous guys and this guy's 9 inches and this guy's 10 inches and all this crap. And I'm like, I'm not even asking, but she's just letting me know how awesome these guys are. And immediately now I'm going into the size game. Oh, well, I'm not 9 or 10 inches. And, she keeps talking about how great it is. And so immediately I'm feeling insecure about that stuff. And then she said how she doesn't like to have sex with guys with quote unquote small penises. Now, I don't know what small penis meant in her book, but apparently 8 inches or less. I'm like, what? What are you, like dating porn stars? I'll tell you what happened later because chicks don't know how to measure. They're lame. So she says all this and she says, before I have sex with a guy, I like to size him up to make sure he's going to be good. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I like to, start with oral first. And if he's not big enough, then I'm not going to have him have sex. I'm not going to have sex with him. I'm like, what? And like, these are all flags that I should just walk away with this chick, not deal with her. But again, I had a connection and I was very attracted to her. So in my head, I'm thinking that, and that day when we wanted to have sex, she started to do that with me. She went down on me and immediately I'm like, oh man, she's sizing me up. And immediately what happened? I stressed out. I freaked out. I had that vision in my head. And now all my adrenaline is going there. My heart rate is going up. And like the last thing you can do when you're having an erection is to be anxious, to have adrenaline and all these things, because those hormones, the adrenaline and the stress hormones, is fight or flight, not go have sex. I'll talk about more of that in a minute. So my point with that is, even with Cialis, even with Viagra, even with having optimal testosterone levels, I couldn't get erect because my mind messed it up because of something she said, and it got in my head, and the more I thought about it, it just made things worse and so forth. Eventually, things worked out. I don't even remember, but things were fine after that. But that's my little story about how powerful the mind is. And that's why today's topic is about psychological erectile dysfunction, not the physical erectile dysfunction. So I bring this up because a lot of guys have these psychological problems, especially younger guys who have lower experience and so forth. While older guys, let's say over the age of 40, they have more physical problems due to low testosterone. But either way, I'll tell you more about this in a minute. The other problem with all of this is that you start to overthink everything. For example, I was thinking, what is she thinking? And that made things bad. Or, guys will talk about, they're trying to satisfy her and they're thinking, am I doing this correctly? Is this the right? Am I going left? Am I going right? They don't feel the confidence. Penis size is obviously a big issue with guys because I've done so many of these penis videos because guys think about it, especially younger guys. Past performance issues, maybe this happened, or she talks about her sexual history like she did with me. She's like, oh, this guy had an 8 inch, this guy had a 10 inch, and this guy was so good. So I became very, very self-conscious and I didn't feel confident. As one thing is, I remember when I was younger, I was asked all these questions. Have you ever done this? Have you ever been that guy? And I remember my buddy's like, dude, stop asking, okay? Less history, more mystery, because the more you know, the more it's gonna F with your head, and you're gonna, especially if I don't have much experience, I'm gonna end up screwing things up in my own head. And I'd say this earlier, are you a nice guy? Because nice guys tend to deal with this stuff. So let's continue. The other problem is, again, when you start thinking about all these things, you start thinking that you're not good enough. Insecurity is a big problem. Maybe you don't have enough money, or you're not as successful. You don't feel like you're smart. Again, you're comparing yourself to her ex. Your body, or maybe you feel short, or you're balding, or, money, or are you going to last long enough, or and things like that. And the more you think about this stuff, the worse it gets, the more obsessive you become, and it almost becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. It's almost like some guy who has insomnia and can't sleep, and the more he thinks about it, it just makes things worse, and he gets more anxious. The adrenaline and all that stuff happens. So one reason, again, all these things happen is because your fight or flight hormones, your adrenaline and cortisol levels go up. These are survival hormones, okay? This is not let's make a baby hormone. These hormones are, sending more blood to your muscles so you can run away from, a lion or whatever. They're not sending blood to the penis so you can have sex. In fact, certain drugs, stimulants such as like Adderall or ephedrine or many ADHD drugs, or yes, even high doses of caffeine can cause erectile problems because of the increase in adrenaline and cortisol levels. Basically, these uppers can also basically make your penis go inward more. Remember, I made a video about showers and growers. If you tend to have a lot of anxiousness or adrenaline, it goes inward. And I remember years ago, we used to take ephedrine and caffeine, the bodybuilder guys and all that stuff. And my buddy, was taking them all the time. He's like, dude, I had like a turtle, it was like a scared turtle, was inward, like as if, you're in cold water. He's like, it took me so long to get hard because he was on all these uppers all the time because he was trying to lose weight. So what's the solution to all this stuff? Now, I'll get to that in a minute. But first, if any of this makes sense to you, or if you're connecting with any of this stuff, all right? And I shared my personal story just to let you know you're not alone. I get these emails all the time, all right? That this has happened and that's happened and why do you think this and that? And studies show that 25% or more of men are dealing with these psychological erectile problems, which is obviously making things worse. And like I said, if you're younger, if you have less experience, it tends to be more psychological versus when you're older, it tends to be more physical because of lower testosterone levels and poor blood flow. So how do you know if it's psychological or physical impotence? So the physical causes of erectile dysfunction are typically due to hormonal imbalance, such as lower testosterone levels or high estrogen levels, body fat, and all that stuff. Another reason is poor blood flow. Sometimes if you have diabetes, if you're overweight, you have high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, and so forth, those reduce blood circulation. Many drugs also can cause physical issues, physical erections, such as if you take drugs for prostate, if you take hair loss drugs like finasteride, dutasteride, propecia, and stuff, blood pressure, cholesterol, sleep drugs, anti-anxiety drugs, antidepressant drugs, all of those can cause physical erectile dysfunction. Then there's also the street drugs that can cause physical erectile dysfunction. Alcohol is a big one. Marijuana is another one. Uppers, like I said, because of the extra adrenaline. Downers as well. So all of these can cause physical erectile problems. However, how do you know if it's something is linked to psychological with your brain? All right, so let me ask you some questions and let me know if you say yes to any of these. The first one is, do you get morning erections? You say yes to that. Can you get an erection when you masturbate? Yes. Are you under extra, stress from work or money or relationship problems lately? Are you dealing with extra anxiety, or maybe you're feeling sad or depressed lately? Do you get nervous about pleasing your partner? Maybe you're not good enough or something, or are you feeling insecure about your sexual abilities, your performance, or sexual experiences? Now, if you said yes to any one of these or more, then these are situations that might be causing you psychological erectile dysfunction. It's not the physical, it's something to do with your mind. All right, so I already mentioned stress and anxiety. If you're dealing with extra stress and anxiety or something about, like that's bothering you, sex is going to be the last thing on your mind or subconscious mind. Depression is also another factor. If you're feeling down or hopeless, or maybe you're depressed, you don't want to have sex, okay? This can be linked to hormonal problems, but also neurological problems such as dopamine and serotonin imbalances. And these days, people are just overly stimulated with dopamine because of social media and porn and all that, which I'll get to in a while. So your dopamine sensitivity is down and your production is less, so you're not driven as much for sex. So that's another thing. And also, too much dopamine will increase prolactin levels, which decreases your ability to have an erection. The dopamine is your goal. It's not just the pleasure chemical; it's the more chemical. And if you don't have it, you don't want to do more anything drive-wise. Another problem that's going to cause you psychological issues is if you're in a relationship that you're not happy. Okay, if things aren't going well, if you're arguing all the time, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you feel depleted, if you're feeling criticized all the time, and you're just like, man, all I do is give, 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 and she's never happy and all that stuff, this is going to lead to resentment and anger, and that's never going to lead to some positive goal of you wanting to have sex. All right. And the worst is you become completely apathetic. Apathetic means you just don't care. All right. You're just disconnected. All of this is going to lead to no desire to have sex. Another problem is porn and porn addiction. Porn has become a big problem these guys because it's readily available everywhere. When I was young, we were lucky if we had like a Playboy or a Penthouse magazine. These days, you got porn instantly, any moment, anywhere, unlimited, any kind. Okay. So if you tend to watch porn all the time, your brain and body, gets an erection with porn, you might get anxiety or stage fright when it comes to human sexual performance. Think of it this way. If you're always masturbating without a condom, and then you're about to have sex and you try to put a condom on, and then your penis is like, hey, what's going on? It's going to shrink. It's going to go limp. And that's what used to happen to me when I first started. As soon as I put the condom on, went down, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? So I used to practice masturbating with a condom to teach my penis, like, hey, this is okay. This is okay, and that's okay. Otherwise, it was like completely like weird, and I'd go limp. The other problem with porn is, when you watch it, you're in control, right? You get to pick and choose what you want, when you want, what you want. You can skip around. You can go for short, fat, skinny, black, white, anything you want. All this stuff, okay? And that's not reality. It's false. So when it comes to real life, you're going to be like, hey, what's this? She doesn't look like that. She doesn't act like this. This scenario didn't happen. And it's going to throw you off. You're not going to be able to react the way, because you've conditioned your body to deal with porn and that false reality. Now, another problem with porn is penis size. You guys watch porn, all these guys have giant penises, right? And you will start thinking about that. Like, you look down, like, hey, Kim, and then the girl's like, oh my God, this is the best. And you start associating something negative. Like, hey, the only reason I need to have like 9 or 10 inches too. And that's not reality. Remember, these porn guys are the best of the best. Just as you don't compare yourself to Michael Jordan when you play basketball, or you don't, compare you're going to the gym, you don't compare yourself to like Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler or Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day. You can't compare yourself to these porn guys, okay? These guys are big. They seem to be getting an erection at any minute, on cue, last as long as they want, and then they basically come on cue. And I used to consult porn guys back in the day a long time ago, and trust me, it's not that simple. These guys take a lot of stuff, and I'll get to that in a later video if you guys want. Let me know below in the comment questions of what I used to consult with porn guys. So my whole point with porn, if you are watching a lot of it, and only that, is it's false, and it's going to cause you performance anxiety when it comes to the real stuff. Another problem is psychologically is guilt. A lot of people, due to their upbringing or culture or religious, being, their parents or whatever, they're gonna have guilt when it comes to sex. And many times it's subconscious and you don't even realize it. So you feel guilty about the topic of sex, whether you're doing it. So you're gonna, that's gonna cause psychological problems, as well as your inability or your ability to get an erection. And lastly, one of the biggest problems is just low self-esteem for whatever reason, is going to cause you psychological problems. Like me, that time with that girl, I felt insecure because I kept getting sized up to the previous guy. And she literally said, this is how I size a guy up, and I only want 8 or 9 or 10 inches. So I felt very insecure. That's going to happen to you. Maybe you're feeling you're not good enough, or other reasons. You're not rich enough. You're not good looking enough. You're not smart enough. You're not big enough. You're not tall enough, or maybe you just lack sexual performance. All of these things cause you to overanalyze the situation. You go in your head, which is a problem I have. I'm always in my head somewhere, man. It's horrible. I'm never like in the moment. And I have to teach myself to be in the moment. So what happens is when you're overanalyzing everything, you're not there, you're not focused on it. So stress hormones go up. And the more you think about whatever problem it is, the more you manifest the problem. All right. If you're like, oh, I can't get it up. Come on, you got to get it up. Dude, don't do that. Oh, no, this is going to happen. And it's over. Okay. Things only get worse. And now it happens 2-3 times. And now you actually don't want to have sex because you don't want it to happen again. Again, it happens. So a lot of guys, they won't admit to it, but it does happen. I get all the consulting. I hear it all the time. It happens to the best of the best, to the athletes I've dealt with, the rich celebrity people I've dealt with. It happens. Everyone has insecurities. It's, again, if you keep focusing on it, it's just only going to get worse. All right. So the bottom line is, what's the solution here, right? What do you do for the psychological reasons? Well, first, it depends on what your issue is, right? If you feel insecure about your penis size, which a lot of guys do, first of all, stop trying to size yourself or compare yourself to other guys, especially porn guys. And I've made an entire e-course free on how you can increase your penis size and have harder, bigger, fuller erections. I'll put that link below this video if that's a topic. If it's something that you feel you're not good enough, again, maybe in life you got compared to your brother or sister or whatever, this guy, your neighbor. I was always told, why can't you be like this guy? Why can't you be more like your cousin? And it just caused me issues. And parents screw a lot of things up. So if you feel insecure about whatever it is, the best way is not to ignore it, but to see what the problem is and just deal with it. For example, if you're insecure about maybe the money you make, focus on making money. And that means you're gonna have to put in extra time and effort. If you're not happy with your body, well, work at it, just eat a little bit better, exercise. The simple fact of you putting something into action rather than putting it in the closet, pretending it's not there, is empowering. So make yourself know that whatever it is, wherever you are, you can definitely make improvements. And the longer you stick with it, the better it'll be. So what other insecurities do you have, right? Just work on it. Work on it. For me, you guys are very lucky. When I was growing up, I had to go to the library, I had to read books to get all this. I didn't have any mentors, by the way, right? So this is one reason I want to create a membership site, a private membership site just for guys, because I want to mentor. I want to help you guys so you can learn from all the bazillion stupid mistakes I've made. And a lot of these insecurities that I mentioned earlier is because we're nice guys. Nice guys do stupid things, and you're more passive, and you get in your head and you feel very insecure, low self-esteem, and just start manifesting itself. And things get worse and you don't perform sexually. And next thing you know, you're the dude who hasn't gone out, hasn't had sex for a long time. You're in your room playing video games and you're watching porn all the time. And that becomes the norm. And that becomes your daily habit, and it's not good. So I don't know if this was a solution, but you need to see what you feel insecure about, and be honest with yourself, okay? I got a million insecurities, and I've worked at all of them, and I feel far, far more secure. For if I go back in time and with all my exes, especially that girl, I would take care of it. No problem, man. I would kick ass. Back then, I was always second guessing myself. And should I say this? Should I not do that? It was horrible. And then I would let her get away when she would talk down to me, or and that's me being a nice guy. Nice guys don't win. All right. I'm not telling you to be a jerk, but the difference is a nice guy has low self-esteem. Do what you can to be confident. All right. I know guys who say, hey, I don't feel confident because of my height. There's so many things. I made videos about how you can improve your height, how you can just look taller and not focus on that. Do you know how many actors I know that I met in person that are getting all these girls, and they're 5'5", 5'6", 5'7"? They're all tiny compared to me. I know guys who are poor, who are ugly, who have small penises, and they still get tons of action because they're confident and they take action. So whatever it is, whatever you're dealing with, make a note, write it down, and just to yourself, be honest. Hey, I feel insecure about this. I don't like this about myself, or I don't like my money situation, or maybe I don't like where I live, or this isn't working. There's solutions. If you're not happy with your relationship, talk about it and see the things you can improve. First, you got to improve you before you can improve someone else. Don't go into a relationship trying to you change and you're at fault or any of that, because you're not going to learn. You're going to take you to the next relationship. You're going to keep making the same mistakes because you're the problem. But if you do all the right things, have a talk, maybe you go get therapy, and that's another problem, or that you can fix. Focus on that solution. Whatever it is, my point is focus 95% of your time and your effort on the solution rather than focusing on the problem and being the victim and blaming everyone. Don't. I've got a million reasons. Look, guys, I've lost all my money multiple times because I trusted the wrong people, and I have resentment towards them, but I kept going and I made it back. School was so difficult for me, man. It was so difficult, but I got all these dumb degrees. I don't even know how I did it, but it just was difficult for me. It wasn't easy. Working out, it's like I worked out. I started at 145 pounds, okay, at 6'2" or whatever. Trust me, I didn't have the genes. I used to stutter. Everything with the word the, anything with a TH, I stuttered and stuttered. I felt really insecure with women. I lost my virginity late in life at 19. All these issues, but I overcame them. All right. Now, you might think I'm a loser. That's fine. But I have accomplished a lot in my life. I'm way million times better than when I was. I'm more confident, and I'm always doing the right thing. Don't hurt other people. Focus on you. Have integrity. Treat people with respect. More importantly, treat you with respect. You owe it to yourself. If no one else does, F them. You do. You do you. Okay, you're the man, all right? You're the man. Say to yourself, I'm the man. You're the man, all right? Focus on all the things you can improve. Everyone can be better. And one other thing, whatever problems you're dealing with, just know that this too shall pass. I told you, I've had brothers, people commit suicide. I've lost all my money. I've had health problems. I've had people around me, but I kept, you deal with it, but then you move onward and upward. Okay. Always push forward. Never give up. Anyone who's ever successful, whether it's Tony Robbins or Michael Jordan, any of these people, Oprah. I mean, dude, this girl had everything bad against her, and she became one of the richest, most powerful people. She had, she was raped when she was a kid. She lost her baby, no money. She doesn't, she's not, Halle Berry. She doesn't have the education, all these things. And because she kept pushing forward. All right. Successful people have even more problems than you and I. Okay. They just work at it harder. They just keep pushing longer. I could tell you all the amazing stories that Arnold Schwarzenegger has gone through. So just know that you're not alone. You want mentors? You have access to books. You have access to podcasts. Just follow good people rather than negative. All right? I know there's a lot of trolling. Forget them. Screw them. Don't get involved in that. Don't blame. Take action. All right. This has already gone on super long. I apologize. Probably most of you already left. If you stayed this far, if this was helpful, give it a thumbs up. Let me know below. I don't think you're going to want to share this type of stuff with one of your buddies, but let me know if this was helpful. Let me know about your questions, and subscribe if you aren't. As always, I think you're awesome. Let me know that you're the man. All right. You're the man, and kick ass. Don't give up. Patience, persistence. That will overcome anything and everything. Love you. Talk to you soon.